Matsuricon 2023 took place in Columbus, Ohio at the Hyatt Regency Columbus and Greater Columbus Convention Center. I first attended Matsuricon exactly 10 years ago in 2013 and went every year until I left cons completely at the start of 2018. Coming back this year reminded me why I always made it a priority in the past to never miss Matsuricon. Between the fantastic location, wide range of guests, unique events, and killer dealer's room, Matsuricon still slaps just like it did all those years ago. Before we get into actually breaking the con down point by point, there are a few things I want to shout out first. Matsuricon managed to get the Japanese-American singer Nano to perform a concert. I don't remember them ever pulling a guest this big in the past, and it was super welcome to see. We went to the concert, and I personally think it's in the running for my highlight of the whole convention. I really hope Matsuri invites her back or continues to get other artists similar to her in the future. The other event in the running for highlight of the con for me is the Otherworld collaboration event. Otherworld is an immersive art experience located in Columbus. On Saturday night from 10:30 p.m. to 2 a.m., they closed it down to the public and had a private event only for Matsuricon attendees. Having such an interesting place only full of cosplayers and other con attendees was a super cool experience. Not to mention the cherry on top that they were playing anime openings over the speakers in the lobby the whole time. I really hope they continue to hold this event in the future for Matsuricon because it really stood out as something super unique I had never experienced at a convention before. Finally, I want to shout out the night market. Each night around the time the dealer's room was closing, across the con in the Hyatt, the night market was opening. Consisting of a mix of artist-made merch and pre-owned goods, it was actually a really cool little area for shopping. I actually ended up buying this boa Hancock there for only $10. Not bad at all. I hope in future years it can be expanded as it did feel a bit small, but either way, it was a really nice, unique little market I'm not used to seeing at most cons. Location gets a 10 out of 10. I absolutely love Matsuricon's location, and I always have. The Hyatt and Convention Center in Columbus are just so spacious, but still retain a pretty cozy vibe overall. I really think it's in my top 3 convention venues. Combining satisfying architecture, wide hallways, spacious panel rooms, it just works. I love how the Hyatt and Convention Center are so easily connected as well, only requiring a short walk through a very spacious tunnel to reach from one to the other. On top of that, it's in downtown Columbus, so there's a lot of things to do and see in the surrounding area. Food gets a 10 out of 10. This is a new category for my reviews. I used to lump food in with location, but I want to try making it its own category as it's pretty important. I think anyone who's been to this venue would agree that food options are some of the best of any con. First, the Hyatt has a full-on food court and a Starbucks in the building, but if that doesn't do it for you, the Convention Center also has its own food court as well as a few cafes. If you still aren't satisfied, just outside, literally right across from the convention center, are rows of more restaurants and cafes. You'll have no problem getting food at Matsuricon. Organization gets a 7.5 out of 10. I'm pretty conflicted here. In some ways, the organization was great. For example, registration was super fast and painless. The whole process, including waiting in line, took us no longer than 10 minutes. And at no point did I see some huge snaking line waiting for hours to get their badge. On the other hand, we had multiple experiences where the guidebook, online schedule, and real times for events at the con just didn't match up. We first noticed this when the book said the dealer's room closed at 8, but it closed at 7 instead. It happened as well with a few other events where the book said one thing, but the online schedule said another. If anyone from Matsuricon is watching, I would highly recommend using the guidebook app for next year's Matsuricon. It's super nice for attendees, and if event times change, it can easily be updated. But again, on the other hand, when panels did run, things went great. And to be fair, whoever was running Matsuricon's Instagram did an amazing job keeping people up to date on changes and when events were actually happening. So shout out to them. But then again, during the Otherworld event, the shuttle to take people between the hotel and Otherworld was an hour late, causing people to either take an Uber over or miss an hour of the event. This could have been Otherworld's fault and not Matsuri's, but this was an official event collaboration with Matsuricon, so it still looks bad either way. So all in all, I think you can see why I'm so conflicted in this category. Dealer's Room gets a 10 out of 10. I absolutely loved how spacious it was. After going to a few dealers' rooms this year where I felt like a sardine stuffed into a can, this was a breath of fresh air. They had a lot of different types of dealers with a lot of good options. I also really enjoyed a lot of the artists as well. The dealer's room wasn't stupidly big, but I would say it was the right size for this size of convention and kept us busy for quite a few hours. Game Room gets a 6.5 out of 10. Probably my biggest disappointment of the whole con. In the actual console gaming room itself, we saw nothing really interesting at all. Also, they did that thing where you have to go up to a desk to get the controllers, making it less easy to just jump around to a couple different things and try things out. All in all, we didn't like it. And it seems like people agree, as we never really saw much of anyone in there all weekend. That being said, the arcade section was fantastic. It wasn't super big, but it was great for what it was. A lot of options, easy to play, and people seemed to love it. It was consistently full of people playing. Also, a shout out to the VR gaming room. It was very nice and had a lot of space for people to play. The people working it also seemed very passionate about VR and helping people find the right game for them. I'm so glad the arcade and VR rooms were there, because they're the only things keeping this category from getting a much worse score and really carried the gaming experience for the weekend. Guests get a 10 out of 10. Matsuricon managed to pull a pretty good number of guests considering their size. Their panels always seemed to fill up, and we saw long autograph lines, so I think people were pretty interested in them. Even myself, who never gets autographs, got one from Nano after her concert, as I've been a huge fan of hers for years. All in all, I think there was probably someone there for everyone. Events get a 10 out of 10. This year, I missed the Masquerade, so I have no idea how it went, but I did go to the Nano concert, which was truly an awesome experience, as well as attending the Otherworld event, which was something unlike anything I've done at a convention before. On top of those, the event list for the weekend looked pretty stacked. I personally had no problem finding interesting things going on to keep myself busy. Also, a shout out to the foam fighting as well. We didn't end up participating this year, but it looked super fun. Staff gets a 10 out of 10. Most everyone was really great. I did have one strange run-in with staff, however. This was the first con I've ever been to where they would not let me bring my camera into the rave. They said they were worried it could get damaged, yet I was allowed to bring my phone in to film. It was very strange, and I'm not taking any points away for this, as they were just doing what they thought was best. And to be fair, I was not actually press at this convention. However, the next night after the Rave coordinator put a sticker for backstage access on my badge, they did allow me to bring it in. Just a very strange thing I've never experienced before at all the cons I've been to, but no points will be deducted, as other than this situation, every interaction I had with staff was pretty great. The rave gets a 9 out of 10. I have no idea what was happening with this rave. The DJs were great, the music was good, even the vibe was good, and the audience was super into it, but for some reason, there was almost no one there. This was by far the emptiest dance I've been to since returning to conventions. That goes for both nights. That being said, we still had a super good time. Like I said, the energy was there. One thing I am taking a point away for is that the DJs didn't seem to want to control the crowd at all. For some reason, especially on Saturday, the crowd seemed scared to approach the chair line. We all hoped someone, either the DJ or someone else who could come on stage and try to hype the crowd up, could get them all to move forward. It wasn't a huge deal, it didn't ruin the rave by any means, and maybe they did it later that night after we left, but it did feel a little strange. Matsuricon 2023 absolutely lived up to my expectations, and we all had a blast. Though I can't give it the highest score of the year due to some technical issues with the con, I do want to say I really believe it's the most fun I've had at a con since coming back to the con scene. Saturday alone was one of the best single con days I've ever had. That being said, at the end of the day, I give Matsuricon 2023 a 9 out of 10 and the convention review seal of approval. If you've never been to Matsuricon, I really cannot recommend it enough. It's absolutely one of my favorite conventions, and I look forward to coming back again next year. Thank you guys for watching, and stay nerdy.